Howdy folks, for once I'm actually not out in the garden. In the kitchen today I've got about a 30-pound batch of tomatoes that came out of the garden, and it's out of the greenhouse that you see out here, and I am getting the juice out of them, and I'm going to can up some tomato juice. We've already done several batches of spaghetti sauce, and I want to add some tomato juice to our pantry. And my setup here, this is my, try not to make you motion sick, I've got a Cabela's grinder, and I process my own deer, and that's the grinder that I use to do that with. And I have bought this attachment here for it, and I think that also came from Cabela's, and it's the juicer attachment. I have done tomatoes, I have done grapes, and it does a pretty good job. If you get this model, or if you're planning on doing it, this aluminum foil that I've got here is keeping the spray, when it's actually juicing, it'll squirt juice out all over everywhere. So I have made a little screen there with my aluminum foil, and that catches everything and diverts it back down to the tray, which is putting it down in my bucket below there. I've got a 16-quart pan in a chair underneath the drip tray, and it's catching everything. Here off the end in that stainless steel tray, or stainless steel mixing bowl I guess it is, are the skins and the seeds from that 30 to 35 pounds of tomatoes. And if you do this, and this is kind of the reason that I'm doing this video, you can run this through multiple times. The more you run it through, it's actually going to get quite a bit more. I would suspect that when I'm done, I'm going to run this through 5, 6, 7 times possibly. This stuff will be almost dry to the touch, like a damp cloth, when you've got all the juice out of it. But I want to show you how much more I can get out of here by running it through the grinder several times. Something else that I've added to this setup that I really like is a foot switch. When I'm doing this, I've got tomato all over my hands. I'm grabbing the scrap as it's coming out and make sure it gets into the bowl, and you can see the mess on my hands. And I'm also grabbing tomatoes that I have cut, so I'm going to have tomato all over each hand, and instead of reaching over to hit a switch that's on the back of the grinder that's kind of hard to get to, I've got a foot switch down on the floor, and so long as I've got pressure on that foot switch, it's sending power to the grinder, and the grinder won't run. When I need to stop for any reason, and we have little kids in the house, so I stop a lot, I just take my foot off the switch and it's done. Absolute necessity, in my opinion, for doing this. Alright, let me pause this. I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to run all this through here and let you see how much extra juice I can get out. This is the grinder foot switch that I'm using with that juicer attachment. It's a pretty simple deal. Plug it into the wall, the grinder plugs in there, and so long as you do press this switch with your foot, the grinder will run. As soon as your foot comes off of it, it cuts the power to the grinder and shuts everything down. These are about 40 bucks, and they're absolutely fantastic. Okay, now take that, dump it all straight in the top, put my catch bowl back down there, use my foot pedal, push everything back through. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through all that skin and seed that was in that bowl. And as you can see, I'm getting a lot more juice out. And it's still damp. It still needs to go through probably, oh, I'm guessing another 3 times. Okay, I've run it through 4 more times. I've not taken anything out. And I'm talking the seeds and skins. I've not removed anything from the bowl. And I'm going to let you see how much less mass there is now that all the juice is out. And I don't even have all the juice out yet, but pretty close. And actually that's it. Everything that was in that bowl when I started, when I'm all done, that's what it looks like. And this is, again, that feels like just a damp towel. There's not much moisture to it at all. There's a lot of seeds, and there's going to be a fair amount that's still inside this piece that I'll get out when I clean it. But my first pass through, this was heaping, and that's what it looks like when I'm done. I'm going to get this mess cleaned up, do lunch, and get this on the stove, let it simmer for a little bit, get it up to temperature, and then I'm going to set up and water bath can my tomato juice. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments section.